would be greedy, and I don't want to be judged on that. But still, money is what I would dream of. Like just imagine having a huge bungalow, a swimming pool, and a luxury car waiting outside your house, and let your imagination do the rest. Thank you very much.
You know, this imagination doing the rest. I mean, my imagination is really doing a lot. But, my dear young man, you haven't seen poor travelers, have you? Backpackers, as they're called, who have very little money. Or, can I see you after this debate outside school? I need to learn from you how money brings happiness to all of us. Thank you, Karan. Who wants to ask a question? Who hasn't asked a question? You have, both of you? You also asked a question. I'll give it to Anushka. Madhushruti. Madhushruti gets that question.
Teachers said money can buy good teachers. Why do people go, after going to institutions like Akash and Petchi, come back home, take a private tuition and still don't understand anything at the end of the day?
So the credit our judges, Akash and Petchi are these private specialized coaching institutes. So she says you've got kids going there like to pay through your nose. And they go there, pay through their nose, come back home and yet need another tuition to understand what it's all about.
Maybe their parents fail to understand. Understand their potential. They have money, so let's spend it.
So what was their potential?
Potential, like they don't understand what a student can if he has the potential.
Great. Okay. Yes, we've got this young girl in the. I'll come to you also. Don't worry.
I am Nandini Chakraborty of class 9. So you have given many examples of dropouts who became billionaires, but what guarantee is there in future that if you are a dropout, you will have a very bright future as the names you have mentioned?
I have not encouraged you to leave school and go home and do some startup or I'm just citing examples. I'm just proving the entire motion.
Nandini, don't listen to him, that's what he says. Okay? Now, I have my timekeeper here who wants to ask a question. I've got so many hands going up. So no, we'll go to this one first. Yes. The look of disappointment on your face simply melted my heart. So yes, short question.
I am Omnu Gamli of class 9. So my question is that, like, you realize I own a bungalow, swimming pool. So for that we need money. And for earning money, we need education. Because in today's time, when job interviews are being taken, throughout the life, 65% average in marks should be there. So what do you want to
say about it? Yes.
Not everyone is interested in doing jobs, my friend. There are actors, there are sportsmen, there are a lot of different fields. Like, I'll just give you a few examples of few actors who are not that educated as they are supposed to be. Like Akshay Kumar, he dropped out of college to pursue martial arts. Priyanka Chopra, she never completed her graduation, but they are still earning in crores.
I'm very curious to know, is there an actor who is educated? Come on, answer the mic. Vidya Balan, there are so many of them. But look, you're focusing on the ones who are not educated. Okay, my timekeeper gets one question, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
Quiet, please. Quiet, thank you. You're not listening to me, but if I say quiet, please, you listen to me, right? Thank you.
This is Shankar Chakraborty from class 11, and I want to ask you that you said money can buy happiness. Can you guarantee me that before a critical operation, if you pay crores, it will buy you a life of the patient?
But if all that money, what I pay for the operation, if it helps me to get that person okay, then it surely will give me the best happiness that I can ever have.
Okay, Paran, thank you so much. You can take your seat now. Thank you very much. Our last speaker for the day, against the motion, Bishwajit Palit. I don't know if that's a good O or a bad O, but over to you, Bishwajit.
motion since the morning. It says that money matters and education does not. So in the very outset, ladies and gentlemen, this motion is redundant because we can see that money and education are the two sides of the same coin. Now, what is education? Is it like the 2 or 3 suffixes or prefixes that we add to our name in terms of degrees? Or is it the holistic education that we get from nature, from life, and from our parents and teachers? I like to mention that when this country became independent in 1947, the government concentrated on the development of industries by spending millions, not millions, crores of money, because they thought that only the industrialization can the country develop. But ladies and gentlemen, we see that with this amount of money that they had spent on industrialization, they had only brought about economic growth, and what is required for a newly independent and underdeveloped nation is economic development. From when the government realized that economic development is required, we can see from the 4th plan itself, the government had started concentrating on the social service sector, including education, health, and other social services. I would also like to clarify the stance of the proposition that money is more important than education. It does not actually stand very good in the present scenario, because if one starts debating that money is required for education and education provides the base and makes one intelligent so that he can earn more money, if we start debating on this, it'll end up in the same question that what came earlier, hen or the egg. So it is fruitless debating on that. So I'd like to concentrate on what role both play in the development of the nation and development of the nation. Yes, if we invest money in various sectors, there is economic growth, and we have seen an increase in the per capita GDP in India over the years. But if we educate ourselves, if the government takes measures to educate the people, then there will be a moral development and broadening of the horizon, mental horizon of the people. Now, I'd also like to quote one of the economists I know, T.T. Munger. He said that the act of saving money is itself an education. So we see that education and money are interlinked. They can't be debated upon as two different entities. So thank you everyone. With this, a very good morning to the respected panel of adjudicators, my fellow debaters, and to such a wonderful audience.
Thank you so much. Audience, you finally got to be called wonderful. Mind that, huh? Now, who's got a question for him? Is there anyone from amongst the teams who hasn't asked a question? Okay, we go to you, Anushka, right?
So you told how in the 5-year plans by the government, education is being concentrated upon, the education rate. So with the concentration on education, the number of people educated is rising, but that is also giving rise to something known as educated unemployment. The more people are getting educated, the more people they are not getting the jobs. So how is that an indicator of development in a nation where people are being educated but not getting jobs?
So ma'am, just to clarify your point, number one, that just being educated, it broadens the mental horizon, and you can't ignore the fact that when the government started focusing on education, India was an underdeveloped country, and over the years it has become developing. So we can see a rise. Yes, there has been instances of educated unemployment, but if you see the statistics, it has decreased over the years. So we can see there is economic development that is taking place in the country.
What has decreased over the years. Number of educated unemployed. Where have you got that from?
Ma'am, actually, if we look at the statistics, then
Have you looked at statistics? Or you're asking us to look at statistics tomorrow?
no, no.
Why is you say it today? No, you have to be much clearer about what you're saying. You can never stand on a stage and say what you wish to. You have to state a fact. Okay? Thank you so much. A question from the audience for this bright young man? Yes, the lady, right, young lady right at the end. Yes, please.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Shanmika Shawta of class 11 from the school. I want to ask you, sir, you said that education broadens our mental horizon and it gives us more experience and learning. And education is not only the suffix and prefix that we add to our name, but also the holistic education. But the government guarantees the education.
Your question, your question is too long. You have to come to the question.
Okay, ma'am. What I want to say is that the government ensures only the formal education and not the experience or
Your question.
what do you want to say about that?
I taught them that. What do you want to say about? Okay. So you want him to answer as to the fact that government teaches you formal education but does not teach you experience. Well, you have to say something.
The government has concentrated in the education of,
Get the mic close to you.
the government has concentrated in providing education to the children. And experience does not come until you work. So if you are educated, you get to know new job opportunities, and then if you work in those lines, you get experience.
Excellent. Thank you. Have you asked a question before? You have. So is there anyone else? You have asked a question before? Okay, we'll give this one to you. Yes.
Unemployment and thereby talking of development. Even if I assume that to be true, what have you got to say about the underemployment of people in this country? People being employed at jobs much less than what their potential acumen is. What do you have got to say about that?
So, underemployment mainly, as of now, prevails in the agricultural sector, and the government has taken measures to decrease underemployment in the agricultural sector.
Wow, you pakka government spokesperson. He will say anything. You're a spit doctor to the hilt. I like it. You're now. We come to the end of the competitive section, but please listen to what I'm saying carefully. No, we're at the end of competitive section. You know how I would have answered this? That you have to say this specifically, that the underutilization is in the government sector because the government gives a secure job. So people wish to be part of it in any which case. There is no underutilization of acumen in the agricultural sector. Because if you're educated and in the agricultural sector, you simply go out and make a career for yourself, right? You don't go back to your fields to till the soil. Thank you so much, Vishwajit. We come to the end of the section. We have experts waiting to go into the final details of what we've heard now. In the meantime, the judges' sheets will be tabulated and the results will be announced at the end of what the experts have to say. I have to make just a very few observations. All of you were absolutely fantastic, but I'm extremely surprised that in a debate where education and money were the key words, I did not hear the word learning even once. You spoke about formal education and education that experiences you. There's something called education and there's something called learning. Your parents don't just give you education, they give you learning, right? So that was a key word I would have expected at least one of you to come up with. Number two, do you know the simplest example of money that you should have got from your teachers or from your parents or from the internet that you worked with? And that example would have been a sure shot nail in the coffin of those who were against the motion but wanted to kill those for the motion, which is money is what money can buy. And that's how you to debunk money. So none of you defined money, okay? The third thing I'd like to say is, who was the lady who mentioned NCERT? You did? Do you know the full form of NCERT? Come on, that is NCSCT. NCERT, pick up the mic. So next time, you know where to kill an opponent. You should have asked her. When she fumbled and said, you all know what it is. As a debater, you need to be psychologically very sharp. I would have said, what does it stand for? And she'd have been killed in that rebuttal round. It's National Council for Educational Research and Training.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, no, you're not to be sorry. They're to be sorry because they missed the chance. You were sharp enough to expect the audience to know it. Didn't catch you there. There's one more thing, yes. All of you who spoke about money does this to you and money does that to you, those who were for the motion, none of you mentioned that one key word of stability. Money brings you stability in life. And stability is a virtue. Did you use the word stability? Yes, financial stability. That which you did, I'm sorry I didn't notice it. But that is it's a great cornerstone of the motion you're arguing about. That not having money is instability, right? And then you can argue from that premise and go all out to say that what's the point of having an unstable life, an unstable life, okay? I will not go more into it, but I'll perhaps make one last point. Somebody mentioned that money funds education, right? Quiet please, audience, please can I request some more minutes of quiet and peace. You know, money funds education. In the Indian context, there's a lot of non-financial charity that funds education. In Bengal, we have thousands of retired women and men who are teaching children for free. They're giving their time. And none of you with your brilliant questions could corner the speaker on that. Just think a bit more, be more research, do a bit more research. I will now invite David Herman, debating coach, Harvard University, to please come onto the desk, address them. A very, very big round of applause for David. Thousands of miles to speak to you. If you have 4 years, use them all. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone. First, I'd like to thank you all for inviting me out here. This has been a tremendous experience. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before. And so I feel very lucky to witness you all debating, see your education in action, see it actually happening, and then give you what limited thoughts I have on how you can improve and get better. During the thing, I was frantically taking notes, trying to remember everything that was happening, and organize some of my thoughts on the debate that happened. So I have basically 6 things to say, and they're all sort of broad principles about debate, and I can tie them to things that happened in your various speeches. So the first thing is always consider the difference between is and ought. What sort of exists today in the world and how you address that, and then what should exist in the world. Especially with a question that is as vague as money matters and education does not. That's something that you sort of have to proactively take it upon yourselves to answer. So a lot of you discussed what is the case in India today. Money funds education. The government funds education. The government uses money in this way. Individuals use money in that way. And very few of you answered the question, what should we use money for? What should we use education for? And is the current condition of the world the best possible condition of the world? And so one useful technique that you can use to do this is ask yourself questions and come up with thought experiments for how the world could be different. So put yourself in the position of a government decision maker, for example. If you ran the government of India, how would you design a system in order to best take advantage of the resources that are available to you? would the education system run the way that it runs today, or would it be different? And if it were different, how would it be different? And when you target that, that will allow you to develop a much more powerful argument for whether or not one thing should matter or another thing should matter. The second big thing is something that some of you did, which is define the premise. And it's how you should begin every sort of speech you give, every debate you enter, every competition. So one example of this is money. Like when you say, does money matter? How much money matters? Something that no one really talked about. Is money a threshold question? Or is money sort of something that is infinite? Like, do you keep earning money? And when do you stop earning money? When does the amount of money that you earn become enough? One of you, who it was, mentioned extreme poverty and psychological and physical consequences that poverty has on children. Answering the question of whether or not we should solve poverty and end poverty is very different from answering the question of whether or not people should endlessly accumulate money, become very, very wealthy. And so, you know, those are two totally different things that you could debate. You could say we should end poverty, or you could say we should become infinitely wealthy. And in both of those cases, money matters, but matters for very different reasons. And those different reasons produce very different outcomes and would cause you to design the system in very different ways. Let's see, what else do I have to say? Use particulars to go to the universals. So when you tell stories or give anecdotes or quote people, something that's incredibly useful when you're debating is draw the conclusion for the audience. Don't just throw the quote out there and expect the audience to understand where you want to take it. Actually draw the conclusion for them. Say why the quote matters. Or, if you don't want to say why the quote matters, design the rest of your argument so that the conclusion that the audience draws is the correct one. So when you give a quote, provide the context necessary, or when you tell a story, such that you get the audience on the same page as you, and ensure that they don't draw a different kind of conclusion. Especially with statistics, when you introduce arguments like, so many people from a government school end up getting a job, or so many people from a private college end up becoming unemployed. The numbers, 45% or 60% could mean very different things in different contexts. Is 60% a large number of people who get a job? Is it a small number of people who get a job? Is that different in India from the United States? All of those things are left unanswered when you just throw the number out there, and could cause the audience to end up with something very different from what you intended them to. Fourth, be creative. One interesting thing, obviously we're in India. I'm learning about India, you all know a lot about India. But each and every one of you focus on India as the context for answering the question about whether money matters or whether education matters. But India obviously isn't the only possible context. And one thing that you could have done once you saw that every single one of your competitors focused on India is to reframe the debate. Focus on the world, focus on another country, focus on individual places within India. That kind of reframing and the creative use of reframing can catch your opponents off guard and can catch the audience off guard, cause what you're saying to seem even more insightful than it already is, and give you a distinct advantage in a debate like this. Fifth is a piece of advice for the audience. While I agree with framing questions as questions, in other words, if you have to make a statement, ask, so what do you think about that afterwards? But what I think, personally, is an even better way to ask a question is to use the statement to find the question that you want to ask in the first place. So, for example, instead of asking, why, so don't just say, you need money to, get an education, and what do you say to that? Pick the jobs that you find most desirable, and ask, how would you get this job without an education? In order to make your question more incisive, find the questions that your opponents cannot have answers to, and then ask those, rather than just making your argument and then asking them what they think about it. And finally, this is something that applies to, I think, all of the rest of the advice. Consider the best version of your opponent's argument and then respond to that argument. Not the argument that they made, or the argument that you wish that they had made. A lot of you got up here and used straw person arguments. One example of this is focusing on the formal education system, or the education system as it currently exists. All of those things obviously have flaws and were designed with errors. And it's very easy to find those errors, point them out, and consider that your job as a debater has been done. The much harder task is to consider the best possible education system, or the best possible defense of an education system, and then respond to that. At several points, one of you or several of you came up here and were questioned about the government and the government's actions, and you were forced to defend them. If you are attacking them, consider the best possible defense, everything that was said in the rebuttal round, and then preemptively respond to that in order to take your opponents again off guard and force them to be answering your answers before they've even begun their speech. Those are the things that I observed today. Those are my general pieces of advice. I can talk to each and every one of you and give more specific thoughts on your speeches afterwards. But without hogging the mic for too much longer, I'll say thank you again. Thank you to our hosts. It's been a tremendous experience so far. And I'll turn over to the stage to my esteemed colleague. Yes? Oh, yeah.
You can ask questions of David, please. Yes. He's just given you 6 specific tips on how to debate better. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, please. Don't be shy. He's not going to eat you up. He's a very mild-mannered, nice young man.
Really, quite harmless.
Ah, come on, David. No questions at all? Okay, he has offered to speak to you individually, to the debaters. So Nick will come and give his bit of the speech, his bit of observations now, and then we will break and all of you can speak to him directly. Is that it, David?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank
and
you.
Also willing to speak to anyone else directly. Just
Yes,
come by.
one-on-one. He will speak to you, but after Dr. Shulo's finished. We don't want pandemonium here. Thank you. Thank you so much, David. Dr. Nick Shulo, he also debates and he's a debating coach with the University of Central Florida, right?
All of these rumors are true, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so first thing I want to do is say thank you to echo David's comment. Yep, that's good. To echo David's comments, it's a tremendous honor to be here. I judge in a lot of debates and coach a lot of debates all across the country in the United States. From California to New York, obviously in Florida. I do not coach and judge debates in India. So this is truly a monumental undertaking, something I'm super excited to participate in. But you know, very honored to be here. You all are great. You know, it's so empowering to see folks caring about argument, caring about the politics and ethical questions of the day. Like, that's really awesome. So you all should be excited because it's this sort of, like, regardless of the question of whether money or education is better, like, doing this debate will inevitably lead you to get money and education. I took an education path, David took the money path. We're both more or less happy, I think. So I've got a couple comments for you. Let's see. First one. So one of the things, if you want to debate well and get better in debate, research is always going to be very important. So the more times you can include quotations and statistics, and you can tell us what those things are. So who said them, but also why is that person saying them important? What are the qualifications of that person who said that thing? That would be really helpful in helping us to understand, you know, why we should believe this person that you introduced into the debate round. Research is also pretty persuasive. I mean, what are the ways that it's difficult to go back and forth. And we've got some claims on this side, we've got some claims on this other side. We've got people affirming the resolution, we've got people negating the resolution. But one of the ways that we assess which side wins is ultimately this question of evidence, or what support do you have for the arguments that you are making. Second thing, and this is one of the things that David alluded to, is this question of definitions. I'm surprised there's not more definitions, both in terms of what money means, which we don't really get a chance to talk about, but also in terms of what education means. And the question of education is particularly important, and this comes up in the questions that we get that are being asked in this debate, but really not in the speeches that we're doing. So think about defining terms in ways that make your case most advantageous and your opponent's case least advantageous. Also think about the impacts of your arguments. So what happens if we agree with you and not your opponent? And demonstrate what happens to people. What are the harms if we take the other side's position? Who gets hurt? If we value money more than education, then who suffers as a result of that? Or if we value education instead of money, who gets hurt or who is impacted negatively by those things? It's important to often put a human face on the arguments that you are making, and one of the ways that you do that is you demonstrate the harms of the opposing side. The last one, second to last one, is that I was surprised that there wasn't more discussion about when we were talking about these things. So what I mean by that is, when does education matter? Does it matter that education might matter more in early childhood or later in life? Does it matter that money isn't particularly relevant at some points in your life and maybe matters more in other points in your life? Money doesn't matter a lot when you're a lot older, assumedly. But also, when you're 2 years old, it doesn't really matter if you have money. Surely you hope your parents have money, I guess. But thinking about the sort of temporal aspects of these two things. When might education or money be more or less important throughout an individual's lifespan? And the fifth thing, and I'll talk about, is preempting arguments, which David talks about in his last point. One of the ways that we teach a lot of debate in the States is that we encourage people to preempt arguments. So if you know, or you have a reasonable guess as to what your opponent might say, it can be very persuasive if you answer those arguments. That way when they get up there and make them, there's already answers there. They're having to do double the work because they're having to answer the responses to the arguments that they plan to make. Very effective strategy. Are you all familiar with the movie 8 Mile, this Eminem movie, the rap movie? No? Sort of, okay, we got dude in the yellow shirt, I appreciate you. But this 8 Mile movie is a great example of this preemptive argument in the final rap battle between Eminem and Papa Doc. Eminem preempts all of the arguments that Papa Doc is going to make, which means that Papa Doc has nothing to rap about. And the reason why Eminem wins this rap battle is ultimately because he has preempted all of Papa Doc's rap arguments. So preempting can be very important in terms of being persuasive and getting an audience to be with you. Those are all the things I had to say. Again, thank you all very much. This is the biggest crowd of people I've seen watch a debate round, and I've coached a lot of very national level late elimination rounds in the United States. And I've never seen an auditorium so full of people to watch debate round. This is great. If I had half of these people watching debate rounds we have in the United States, I'd be ecstatic. So very appreciative of everybody coming here. Thank you for all your time and your enthusiasm. It means a lot to be involved. Thank you.
I know you guys enjoyed it. So can we have one final, very big round of applause? Is that your very big? That's very big. Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Oh, I like that. while we wait for the tabulation of results, I want you all to pay attention. You all know what the motion was? Please tell me, those of you who believe that money matters, education does not, raise one hand. Carefully, those who believe, the teams are not allowed to raise their hands, please. Those who believe that money matters and education does not, raise your hands. Be brave, come on, think about it and raise your hands. Raise them nice and high, yes. I'm giving you enough time. I can see those hands going up. I mean, there's no harm if you believe money matters. You can always change your mind tomorrow. As of now, you can tell me, those of you who believe, any more please? Any more please? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Raise your hands high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I've counted your hands. I have a question to all of you, the 16 of you. Listen to me carefully. Did you believe that money mattered before the debate started? How many of you believed that money mattered before the debate started? Raise your hands. Those who believe that money mattered before the debate started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So that's 7, that's become 16. You know what I'm doing? I'm counting this way. What we do in intense debates is we see how many people believe in something before we start debating and how many we've convinced after we finish debating, okay? I know that in a country like India, education is very, very valuable. It's so valued that we really want the degree, never mind if you're educated or not. It's extremely important to have the sheet of paper. That's the reason I am not counting those who believe that education is important. But the fact that there were 7 students here who believed that money matters, and there are 16 students here who now believe that money does matter, means an extra number of students, a certain percentage, has been swayed by the motion. So well done for those who debated for the motion, right? Incidentally, for the benefit of our 2 esteemed guests, and to point it out to the rest of you, none of those who believe that money matters before the debate are young women. And not a single woman was swayed by the argument. That says something about gender. That says something about how men and women perceive money differently. Right? What are we clapping for? Can someone tell me what we are clapping for? Can someone please tell me what we are clapping for? What did I just say? Can you interpret? Can you repeat what I said very simply in your simple words? Yes, please. Yes, Karan. Take a mic. Shh. Listen to what he has to say, please.
Our gender is very fickle-minded.
Fickle-minded. Yours or theirs? The male gender is very fickle-minded. What a brave and frank young man. Carry on, Karan.
Ma'am, like, we get persuaded very easily. If we see something better, we always opt for that.
Right. You will be a psychologist. You will be a psychologist. Well, you want to say some more? There's no time limit. You can. Okay. Now the point is, this school is amazing. I don't think you have had, not to my knowledge, a very active culture of debating. But I'm sure my guests here will agree that this was wonderful. Future Foundation is going to produce a lot of lawyers. Lots and lots of lawyers. Yes. You argue so well. You argue so well, and if you keep practicing, you'll be right up there. Now, before the tabulation sheets come to me, let me tell you just a little about Calcutta Debating Circle. And I'm not trying to blow my trumpet or our trumpet. I'm simply trying to fill in the gap that your teacher has put me into. She says, keep speaking till I get the tabulation sheet. Right? That's why I'm going to be speaking to you about Calcutta Debating Circle. We are about 6, 7 of us, all of them gentlemen, and I very much not a gentleman. In front of you, we are all professionals. We have our pretty hardcore careers, and yet we love debating. We come together despite 12 to 14-hour working days, and we discuss what we can do to continue debating within ourselves and how to take debate forward into educational institutions like yours, more colleges, more universities, and the likes. I don't know if you have a little debating club in your school, but perhaps after today, you can convince your teachers to make one for you, because that's how it's done in India. You perhaps don't have the freedom to make a debating club on your own. Keep debating amongst yourselves. Keep following Calcutta Debating Circle on the internet, and you'll know newer and newer programs. I'll be only too glad to invite you to many, many more such debates and hone your skills. There she is, my savior. So on behalf of Calcutta Debating Circle, I want to thank Future Foundation, the school, your principal, Mr. Vitta, Ms. Sharmila Ghosh, all of you, the debaters, and the wonderful audience. Not many in India would have listened to my polite entreaties about keeping quiet. You did every time, so thank you for that. And now for the results. Okay, we have two prizes for today. A prize for the best team, which is the best combination of a for and against, and a prize for the best speaker. As far as the motion goes, it was a lopsided, a vague motion in the context of Indian society, in the context of contemporary global society, the global village that we are, but it kept it simple so as to understand how you'd react to it. May I request both David and Nick to come up on stage. Where are the prizes, please? Yes, are the certificates ready? Fine, we'll wait for 2 minutes before we can get. Indian culture, the senior in age gets respect and does the honors first. That's how you're being respected, not necessarily for your merit, Dr. Shulo. It's your age that gets you there. He's going to announce the best speaker for today.
The best speaker today, and I apologize in advance for mispronouncing your name, is Madhu Shruti Mukherjee.
And now for the best team. David will now announce the best team.
And the best team was Madhu Shruti and Anushka.
And please, Anushka, yes. Come in, please. Now there's some guys there who did this. If this means that this was pre-decided that the girls would win, it wasn't. Yeah? But it's just a coincidence that they have. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so very much. We will send you prizes from the Calcutta Debating Circle for certain, because if I'd known, I'd have got them stuff today. Once again, my duties for the day are coming to an end. I'd like to thank the school and Ms. Ghosh, all teachers present here, Dr. Shulo, David, for agreeing to be here, and all of you for being a wonderful, wonderfully responsive audience. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Of information, of learning, of research, what not? What are sum total? I would say I'm really in wonderment about what I saw, what I heard, what I witnessed, and it was really a spectacular event, and I hope the children have a lot to take home. We learned a lot. It has been an enriching experience and very enlightening, And I would like to thank my eminent panel of adjudicators, Mr. Sholo and Mr. Harman, for being here, and Mrs. Swati Gautam. What a moderator she has been. It has been wonderful. Yes, children? Yes. And thank you for a wonderful participation from our students. So children, please be grateful that these people could come along, the eminent personalities that you saw today and heard today. They have been just wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.